The Archbishop of Hypocrisy has just become a multi-millionaire overnight. Great. Why doesn't he build a massive migrant hotel with it? Justin Welby has come into a staggering 2.4 million quid from his mother's will. Well, come on then. Put your money where your mouth is. Start housing more channel migrants and stop expecting the rest of us to pay. He's slagged off the Rwanda plan.
When migrants arrive here, our system is grossly wasteful in both human and financial terms. Control has become cruelty.
The Church of England reportedly takes just 20 refugees under a community scheme. He said that we need to pay more in tax for foreign aid. He's called for us all to pay even more tax for a social care system. He loves the idea of all of us paying tax, doesn't he? More. But he doesn't practice what he preaches. At the Trade Union Congress a few years ago, the Vicar of Wokery said 0-hour contracts and companies like Amazon paying little to no tax are the reincarnation of an ancient evil. It turned out 2 Church of England cathedrals were advertising 0 hours contracts, and Amazon was one of the church's biggest investments worldwide. The Church of England is reportedly sitting on around 10 billion quid, yet clergy demanded a pay rise in June to cope with the cost of living crisis. Their wages largely come from public donations, apparently. He's very good at virtue signalling, slamming the Beeb over their handling of prolific sex abuser Jimmy Savile, but victims of sexual abuse accused Welby and the church of silence, denial and evasion when it came to them. We haven't even got started on his climate hypocrisy. We've all got to do our bit, haven't we, to pay for the green stuff? Look, the church has only recently cut ties with arms dealers and oil and gas giants. He's obviously doing all right financially now, £2.4 million better off, which will come in handy if he gets another speeding ticket. He was ordered to pay £510 in total for exceeding a 20-mile-per-hour limit near Lambeth Palace on the 2nd of October last year. We actually have come into possession of a picture now of what the speed camera captured when Welby was razzing it around the capital. There he is. Look at him. Look at him there. Anyway, all right. That's obviously not really him. But anyway, it is time, I think, for this incredibly wealthy, privileged, sheltered, sanctimonious bloke who keeps sticking his hand out and expecting you to drop a load of cash in it to pay for illegal immigrants, to put his money where his mouth is. Let's get the thoughts of my panel now. We have got legendary journalist Harriet Sargent and, of course, always outspoken Benjamin Butterworth, editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths. Harriet, I'll start with you. Is it time that Welby spent this £2.4 million windfall actually doing something to proactively help with the migrant crisis?
Yes, I think this is a brilliant idea. I certainly think, when you look at Lambeth Palace, it's enormous. It could take any number of migrants. It's got 2 towers, lots of staterooms. It's got 4 apartments, 8 cottages, and 6 acres of garden. And I think not only could he put a number of migrants in there, but he could start a trend. Because at the moment, migrants are all sent out of sight and out of mind of London, far out away from London and away from anyone who lives in London.
Yeah.
And they are the most poorest areas who are then struggling to access services with migrants. So that is definitely a problem. So instead, let's have them here. Let's have them in Hyde Park, let's have them in Richmond, let's have them in Islington.
Well, I think the problem would sort itself out quite quickly, actually, if it affected people like that. Benjamin, this guy keeps sticking his hand out. He wants us to drop a load of cash into it. Tax more for this, tax more for that. 2.4 million quid he's got, sitting on 10 billion quid there, the Church of England. Come on, why aren't they paying for more stuff?
Look, as a supporter of inheritance tax, I think fantastic. He'll be giving hundreds of thousands of pounds to the Exchequer to pay for exactly that. And I'm sure he supports it too. Look, on the one hand, I do think that the Church of England, like most organised religions, are incredibly gluttonous and selfish and hypocritical, and they have these incredible amounts of money and they spend it on lavish things that often aren't for the people. And that's why I'm an advocate for Justin Welby, because I like the fact that he stands up for the poorest. He stands up for those who've been damaged by austerity. He stands up for refugees who don't have a voice.
He's got priests. He's got vicars and members of parish communities, right, who are classed as, by their union, because they've unionised, they're with Unite, they're classed as the working poor. And a load of their pay comes from donations that ordinary members of the public are making. Meanwhile, the Church of England, until recently, Charlotte, has been investing in things like arms, munitions and oil and gas companies. Come on, this is ridiculous, no?
I think it is a bit ridiculous, but I think I wouldn't put it past Welby to actually put his money where his mouth is and make a big bit of a gesture over this, because, yeah, he is a bit of a virtue signaller. We've known that about him a long time, but I think he, you can count on him to probably actually house a couple of refugees or donate some of this money to a charitable cause. I wouldn't put it past him.
Although with 6 acres and all those staterooms, I think I might like to live in Lambeth Palace.
I had a couple of Ukrainians staying with me, and I don't have 2 towers and, goodness knows how many staterooms. But I think the main problem with Welby is that we are facing a big moral debate about migrants and the sheer numbers of migrants that can come here. And we really do need an archbishop at this point, and to show some kind of moral judgment and clarity.
And let's be honest, Patrick, you don't really care about whether he takes in some refugees or not. You hate that he stands up for the little guy.
No, I actually, as a Christian myself, I found it really repugnant when he said that the Rwanda plan was ungodly. Right, because I don't think it is, right, and I think that was dividing Christians who actually want to control borders and trying to make them out as some kind of heretics or heathens or sinful individuals, and I found that really, really disgraceful. That's my view on it.
I mean,
I just feel he hasn't addressed the main issue. I mean, people like Welby, who say we've got to just take migrants, don't address the main issue, which is the sheer numbers that want to come to this country. They say, oh, well, we sought out the genuine asylum seeker. Well, I've lived in the third world. I know that if you take genuine asylum seekers, that is literally millions and millions of people. We need someone like Welby to say, what are we going to do in this situation?
Do you think that maybe, Charlotte, there is a possibility that Justin Welby belongs to that same group of people who are now fabulously wealthy, certainly before that extremely privileged, potentially quite closed off from wider society, maybe, and therefore not really best placed in order to lecture us on how to live our lives?
He is a little bit in that category, isn't he? Because he went to Eton, he went to Oxford, he's just become, he's about to be knighted, he's friends with Prince Charles, he loves Meghan and Harry, and, he is in that class, he is. But I do agree with you that this is actually the time for an archbishop to get, this is one area where he could actually be meddling, because it is the time for somebody like him to say something.
He's just taking the easy option, that's what I get
it's just a bit obvious how he goes about it, but it kind of is his role.
I mean, if he'd stood up for keeping churches open during lockdown as much as standing up for people coming here illegally, we probably wouldn't have a problem.
I don't think saying that you should have killed off all the elderly churchgoers would have been a very Christian thing to say.
Well, you're hardly going to get COVID in a huge church.
Well, quite obviously, that those were the people most at risk, and we're replaying old stories. But if they'd been going into little churches and halls and things, that would not have been good for their health. But look, I don't like organised religion. I think it is a blight on society. As a gay person, I look at the Catholic Church as utterly evil in its behaviour in recent decades and still in parts of the world. But you can hardly be surprised that someone who's the head of a major organised religion should see themselves as a moral arbiter, as a moral guidance. That is what they're there for. That is why they exist. And I'm sure if they were saying things you agreed with, you wouldn't be complaining about him opining.
Well, obviously, because I'd agree with it.
But that's the point. You can't have it both ways. He was appointed by a Conservative government, of course.
It's just taking he's not showing, he's just taking an easy option.
And he is going too far by saying it's ungodly. It is pushing it too far. He needs to put his money where his mouth is, quite literally. I agree with you on that. And perhaps, it'd be great if he came out tomorrow and said, I've actually donated half of that, or more than half of that, to a cause close to my heart.
I was doing some research before today, shock horrors everyone, but I was doing a bit of research today, and the amount of parish communities that are literally crying out for the Church of England to give them a little bit of cash just to help in their local area, or help with their facilities, or help with their congregation, etc. And it's not forthcoming. It's not as forthcoming as arguably it should be. And I just wonder, now he's come into that story that came today under really remarkable circumstances, actually. The Archbishop Welby has come into £2.4 million worth of inheritance. He also apparently relatively recently found out that the person he thought was his father was not his father as well. So it's all wrapped up in what is quite a remarkable story. But whether or not he should now use that money to put his money where his mouth is, get your views coming in, gbviews@gbnews.com.